If you've ever wondered just how insane society is becoming, look no further than the University of Missouri. MIZZOU, as it's called, has broken down into a total lunatic leftist, what do you even call it? Some kind of artificial construct of indoctrinating students with extreme left-wing propaganda, political correctness, and sensitivity training. And it's all collapsing right now. I did a story here called Extorting MIZZOU and another story called The Shame of MIZZOU. I'll cover both of those in this show. But here's what you need to know as background. Some black students from MIZZOU complained that some drunk students, probably white, shouted some racial slurs at them from a vehicle. All right, so let's just set this up. It's Friday night. You're partying down at MIZZOU. You're a freshman. You're away from home for the first time. You know, what did you do at college? Did you party? Did you drink a little too much? Did you do something stupid? So these students say stupid things when they're drunk. Gee, never would have guessed that. And some of these students are shouting racial slurs a couple of times that got reported. And so the black students then blamed the entire university, saying that it's an institution of racism, and call for the president to resign. And they make a list of demands. It reads like the demands of a kidnapper, ransom note demands. They make this insane list of demands that includes firing white faculty, replacing them with black faculty, artificially increasing black admissions to be at 10%, thereby denying admissions to white students who are otherwise qualified. They demand black student and faculty control over the curriculum. They say you got to teach like black studies or cultural sensitivity in every class. And they demand money to set up these, what do they even call them? Social justice centers all across campus. And then to add to this total idiocy, they surround the university president's car. I think his name is Tim Wolf. They surround his car with a bunch of people, like a crowd, like a mob around his car as he's trying to move through a street. And his car is inching forward, little by little. He's trying to get through the crowd. So they come up to his car and they press their knees up against the car bumper, and then they claim that he hit them. Yeah, that's right. Playing the victim role. You see, what these students at MIZZOU are being taught and what they're mastering is how to play the victimization role. They're experts at it. They can act. They can do the theater with the car, act like they got hit by the president's car. Really? No, you didn't. You walked up to it. Act like, oh my God, someone shouted a racial slur at me. Now I feel unsafe. Hey, guess what? People have shouted hateful things at all of us. I get death threats constantly, online and offline. People shout hateful things no matter what your skin color. You think the world is a friendly, fuzzy place? Warm and fuzzy? You think that when you graduate from college that you're just going to get this dream job and everybody's going to appreciate you and your ideas and your education and your diploma? You're not going to have any obstacles? Is that the delusion that's been taught to you by these university professors? Because if so, they're living in fantasy land. If you learn anything at college, you need to learn how to overcome adversity. You need to strengthen your mind, strengthen your internal resolve, strengthen your sense of discipline and self-determination to plow through obstacles, make something of yourself, and overcome any of the limitations that society puts on you, whether they be racially based or otherwise. Hey, the federal government discriminates against all small business owners. Did you know that? Didn't know that, did you? Hey, the federal government discriminates against graduates that are Americans. It actually favors aliens. In other words, people from other countries who have degrees. There's a tax credit given to companies to hire them. So you're discriminated against just by the fact that you happen to be American. Did you know that you get discriminated against if you are a real investigative journalist? Did you know that if you investigate the truth about, vaccine side effects harming young black children, that you get fired from the entire mainstream media? You get blackballed? You're not allowed to work anywhere in the mainstream media ever again? Did you know that? Ask Cheryl Atkinson, a white woman who was discriminated against by the entire media because she looked into the truth about vaccines. So if you're a student at MIZZOU, and you're a black student, and you think that a couple of people who shouted some hateful comments at a couple of other people, if you think that is, oh my God, that's a civil rights war that we have to fight now. Join hands in solidarity. We're going to march on the university, and we're going to demand written apologies, and we're going to demand the president admit to his white privilege, even though he didn't even do anything wrong. If you think that is what you're fighting for, you're delusional. That's nothing compared to what you're going to face in the real world. You need to be much stronger than that. Stop playing the victim role and start standing up for investing in your education, investing in yourself. Make something of yourself. Don't be dragged into this nonsense by a bunch of whiners who are frankly spineless and pathetic youth who've been indoctrinated by this left radical extremist philosophy that's infecting the universities of America these days. Not saying that shouting racial slurs is right or justified. Of course it isn't. It's shameful. But gee, you think the world doesn't have pricks in it? You think there are no asshats out there who are going to shout something crazy at you? Really? Wake up. You've been living in a false reality. That university hasn't taught you anything about the real world. If anything, they should teach you to move forward through adversity and find the inner strength that it's going to take to succeed in the real world. So this story just gets more and more insane. I've barely scratched the surface, by the way. Let's get into this professor. All right, a university media professor named Melissa A. Click. She's now caught on tape screaming and accosting a photojournalist who was on campus taking pictures on public property, taking pictures for ESPN. So this young journalist, who looks like he might be Asian American or Mexican American, I'm not sure. I didn't get a great look at him. He's not white and he's not black. It looked like he was some of other ethnic origin. So this white university professor who teaches media and communications classes, she's on video screaming at him, calling for muscle to remove him by force. She comes up and she grabs his camera, which, if that had happened to a black student, they would have said that was physical assault, and they would have had another march about that, violence against black students. But when it's against a journalist, it's okay at MIZZOU, you see, because this professor, Professor Melissa Click, well, she can be as violent as she wants. She doesn't have to recognize the First Amendment. No, she only has to recognize the First Amendment of the black students, not the non-black photojournalists, you see. It's all selective. It's all contradictory. This is how the left works. Their rules only apply in the way they want them to apply. Nothing is universal. There's no philosophy underneath it all. So I did an infographic that shows the University of Missouri building in the background, the campus, the tents, and then a group of black students who are all holding hands. And it says, black students who say they are tired of being screamed at by intolerant people. And then we have this picture of Professor Melissa Click labeled intolerant media professor screaming at a photojournalist and threatening to have him removed by force because she doesn't recognize anyone else's First Amendment rights. So now here's the question. Tim Wolf, the president, resigned even though he didn't do anything wrong. But this Professor Click accosts a photojournalist, denies his First Amendment rights, which means she's violating his civil rights, verbally assaults him, and and invokes other people, muscle, which is, by the way, a euphemism for gangbangers, to forcibly and violently remove this person from public property. What do you want to bet that nothing will happen to this professor because she's a leftist? She's part of the protected PC class. You see, you can't go after people on the left, no matter how violent they are, no matter how contradictory they are, no matter how much they deny other people their rights. You can't go after them because they're politically correct. And so what we've created now is total Looneyville, complete insanity. We've created an artificial reality, a society with that has essentially broken down into despotic leftist idiocy, where these coddled, inept students who are fragile, psychologically fragile, can't handle words, and they're indoctrinated by these delusional left-wing professors who don't know the Bill of Rights, who don't even respect the Constitution, even the First Amendment right that has given them their job, by the way. They work in communications and media, and they still don't know the Bill of Rights. But now we have the situation where this thing just looks like a complete pathetic joke to everybody else on the outside. And MIZZOU is rapidly becoming synonymous with leftist lunacy and ironic idiocy. As I said in my story, quote, when tolerance is caught on video at MIZZOU, it looks exactly like a ranting, screaming professor threatening a photojournalist with physical violence. That's tolerance for you. That's MIZZOU. Yeah, so go drive down to Columbia, Missouri if you want, and visit the campus just to get a view of what they want to turn the entire society into if the leftists continue to get their way. And then flee that campus as quickly as you can before they invoke violence against you for daring to exercise your First Amendment right to be there.